Hey, it's Jeremy from Jeremy.net. I'm a comic book artist, writer, creator, self-publisher, and I share my creative process here with you on the internet. If you would like to support this channel, get additional bonus live streams twice a month, be able to read my comic books for free online, get all access to everything that's going on in my studio, you can become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/Jeremy. It's patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook, get behind the scenes animated GIFs of my works in progress, little messages about what I'm reading or films I'm watching, and just my thoughts on what I've got going on, what I'm consuming, you can sign up for my monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my comics or free digitally on Comixology or Kindle, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. That'll forward you to my Amazon author page. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods. It's a psychological thriller about a man who is cursed with visions he cannot control. Or you can pick up my current series, Morning Star. It's Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a Western. It is an 8-issue series. This book contains issues 1 through 4. The second half of the series, Volume 2, is actually available digitally now at the same link at my Amazon author page. I'm still working out the kinks on the formatting issue on the print edition of Volume 2. It really comes down to the fact that Amazon has their margins set in a certain way. Margins are not set up the same way. And I ordered some proofs to go ahead and check. I don't know if there's a way I can force that through approval if I'm sign off on the margins, whether I'm going to have to go back and reformat the book to some degree. But if you're reading digitally already, Volume 2 is ready for you. You can dig into that right now. And you know what? And feel free to leave a review on any of these books. Definitely helps me get the word out, spread the message. If you've ordered some in the past, read them, enjoyed them, please feel free to leave a review. Also, if you go to my main website, jeremy.net, you can get prints and t-shirts. You can also pick up the final issue in print form. For those who read single issue comics, the final issue, issue 8, is still available there. So that is all the stuff. All right. Let's see here. Folks already rolling into the chat. I see Amaris here, Yadi's here, Byron's here, Cassiel's here. Hey, how you doing? How's it going, guys? So, I think I had mentioned last week that the print that I was working on, the Yojimbo print, that I finished that. I think I may have posted that. Yeah, I want to say that I posted that in the either in the description for last week's video, or I may have posted it. You know what? I don't think I did just a regular post on the YouTube community section, but that's really because I just wanted to, I think I got caught up this week. I was trying to get a new camera setup going where I could have a camera that's up above me but zoom in. That didn't work out. So I'm back to my camera. The camera's actually like right here below my face. And what am I working on? I'm working on some sketches. I did a painting for my wife, or at least I started one as a wedding present several years ago. And, I still had to finish it. I figured now that Morning Star is done, she's incredibly patient. So I thought, let me come back and finish that painting. And I was going through and sort of reworking the composition of it. And what I have planned is, I made a mistake that in the first version, I'm trying to correct now. So my wife thought that it was a little bit too dark for our living room. And the one thing I did is I did do some color studies, but I didn't do studies just in terms of working out the tones, the value studies. So I've got a sheet here of toned paper. My plan is to revise this sketch a little bit. So basically the image is a dragon above a woman that's just, she's meditating on a rock here. And I moved the composition around. In the original piece, I had the woman on the left side and the dragon's head on the left side. And I think it works much better. The reason why there's a big cross here in the middle is not just for composition. This is actually a really big painting. It's painted across 4 canvases. Each one of these panels is 18 by 24. So it's kind of like a really large painting that takes up like for almost not quite floor to ceiling, but it takes up a large section of a wall in our living room. It's kind of been a work in progress. So I'm going back, and as long as I was going to change the color tones anyway, I thought, you know, why don't I just go in there and fix the stuff that I didn't think was working? So I reworked the composition. The things I'm trying to resolve here is just making the dragon's head look like it's really above, and really get a sense of space between this woman that's down here in the foreground and the dragon. So I'm kind of going in, resketching these out. And I realized I've been working this out in a sketchbook. Like I've got a few pages, turn it this way, a few pages worth of, you know, dragons aren't my specialty. But I went through here and did a few different sketches, trying to work out the anatomy, what type of body I wanted it to have. One of the big problems I had in the original is I realized afterwards that I didn't give the dragon large pectoral muscles that it would need to flap big ass wings. I just had wings attached to what was like a giant serpent. And I thought, no, I really need to fix that if it's going to be a dragon. So that's one of the other things I was doing, was just kind of working out that, you know, sketching out a couple of different poses, different angles, you know. And the problem I found is that as much as I like working in sketchbooks, the reason why I tend to, when I'm designing stuff, to just have sheets of paper, and then I'll just put these in a binder, or I have a box where I keep a lot of my layout sketches, is because I realized that this sketch here on this page is pretty close to what I want. And then I flipped the next page to start working out some different angles of the head, and I was like, oh, well, I really want to be able to look at this sketch while I'm drawing the next sketch. And I thought, that's why I do stuff on different sheets of paper, so I can be looking at both at the same time. So let's see here. Comments in the chat. Cassiel says he changed his name to Cassiel Da Vinci. It says, again, with a new face and a new name. I don't know why I changed. It says it's an old drawing I made, and the Da Vinci, it's a nickname they gave me once. You know what? People change their names they go by online all the time. It's not like you need to tell anybody why. You know, you feel like changing, be like water, as Amar would say. Be like water, be fluid, go with the change. Yadi's here, says Jeremy and the gang's groovy graphite chill out. I like that name. That's cool. Oh, I see Dr. Thomas Elliott in the chat. Thank you for popping in. Good to see you here. See here. All right. So I guess starting here, the other thing that I always am concerned about is how well you can see stuff. And this is the thing, working in graphite as opposed to working in ink. I feel like everything shows up very well in ink, whereas working in graphite, stuff's just a little more ghostly. Also, I still feel like I'm not getting enough light in here. Maybe I need to get like a ring light just for this camera. That might be possible. That might be necessary. Let me get a little bit more light in here. And let's see here. I think as much as it irritates me to have the camera block my face, I need to move this up a little bit just so that you guys can see both what I'm drawing and the reference that I'm, not the reference, but the sketch that I'm working from, that I'm looking at while I'm going. So bring this down a little bit. Basically, I'm just going to copy these little diagrams that are on this page so I can look at them while I'm looking at the next page. And so the idea was, I was just trying to think in terms of a mass. What am I seeing in terms of the underside of this dragon's face? I want the jaws to look wide open. And the question is, do I want the dragon kind of facing directly towards the camera, or do I want the dragon's head turned up the way that I have it here? And I'm leaning towards turned up. And also, I think I want to spread this out a little bit. When I say spread this out, that was very undescriptive. What I want is to make the the upper jaw long and narrow. That is what I mean. So that's not really spreading anything out. That's just me babbling while I'm drawing and not actually saying what I mean. And then making the lower jaw bigger and boxier. And this whole thing is just me working out primitive shapes before I really get into the actual drawing. I don't know how far I'm going to get in this because I'm trying to work out everything in terms of just simple blocks and then go and basically do a whole nother drawing of the same image, but drawing it on tone paper to start working out the values. And who knows, I may draw multiples or I may just draw one and really work it until I feel like I have something I'm happy with. Because that tends to be how I work. I don't necessarily go in saying I'm going to do one study and it's going to be perfect, or I'm going to do a ton of different thumbnails until I get something right. I start going, and if the right thing comes along early on, then I just let it be. Maybe I might do one or two additional explorations just to make sure that I found what I wanted. But sometimes I hit something early on and I'm like, okay, that's the one, just go with it. And then, but more often than not, it tends to be the latter, where I'm drawing 10, 20, 30 different sketches. Like even when I flipped back and I showed you what I was starting with in terms of what was already in my sketchbook, even those, I think I probably had a couple more pages beyond what I showed you there. In terms of me just sort of playing with the idea, the composition, trying to find something that felt like what I wanted the piece to say. And yeah, this isn't a super fancy dragon. I'm trying to keep it kind of simple and blocky and primitive. So let's see here. Byron says, also drink more fluids. It's funny. I woke up this morning and I was even telling my wife that my allergies were not bothering me. And then I started, like 20 minutes before this, I started sneezing, having a runny nose. So I just took a little allergy medication before, but that stands, it stands to be part of the record. Let's see. Wakey J87 says, evening all. Dizzy's here, says yo. Amar's in the chat. Says sup. Good Sunday to all. Let's see. Dr. Thomas says, I've been watching your old live streams and you were saying that you try to understand Bridgman. I usually understand him, but there are times when I don't. How do I understand him? Amar says, let it be the Beatles. Amar's always got the best quotes. Let's see. The best way to understand Bridgman, I find the best way to understand Bridgman is by copying Bridgman. And when I copy, I've mentioned this many times, but when I'm doing a study from any artistic, whether I'm doing a study from a master or I'm studying from an educational art book, I'm not drawing to make an exact replication of the image that's in the book. I'm drawing to to dissect that drawing, to dissect what I'm looking at. For instance, wow, I'm trying to figure out how to move my chair. I've got my old tripod set up and I'm caught here in a way that I can't really move. Hang on. At least not without disturbing the camera. For instance, I've got a copy of Bridgman's Complete Guide to Drawing from Life. And let's say that, I don't know. me grab a random page here. Random page. Okay. Muscles of the torso. So there's a section on the back. I'm going to have to zoom the camera out a little bit. I'm really going to have to get an extra light just for this webcam because it just is not as bright. You know what? I need to also turn on some extra lights in the studio. That might be it. It might just be the fact that I'm sitting here in a dark-ass room. That's why you can't see anything. I will come back to the comments in the chat in a second. Let me try not to knock over the camera while I turn on the lights. It's actually the middle of the day in California right now, and it's a really, really nice sunny morning, late morning. Problem is if I open that window, all the light comes flooding in. I'm backlit, and then you can't see anything. But let's see here. Amar says, to think is to not overthink. To understand truly is to overstand, meaning to understand deeply. Let's see here. And Yadi says, you don't understand with your mind, you understand with your pencil. Copy his drawings and you'll get it. As an artist, you don't really know something until you look at, you don't really know how something looks until you have drawn it. And Amar also says to copy when drawing is not to draw what you think, but what you see. Cassio says now it's a philosophy class, which, yeah, it is. Yes, Yadi goes on to say, I say draw, don't think if it's what you, don't think if it's what you think, learn what you see. It says analyze to see what's wrong, learn from mistakes. Well, that's kind of what I was going to get at is, for instance, if you look at this diagram here, and let me raise the camera up slightly. I'm going to have to move. I've got 2 sketchbooks, a drawing pad, and an art book on this table. It's getting very crowded up in here. All right. So for instance, he's got these basic muscles here. I think that this drawing here on the bottom, which shows a back view of muscles raising up. You know, what I start with is I'm looking at this, I'm like, it's all about asking yourself questions. What am I seeing? And I would start with, by the way, if you happen to own this book, Bridgman's Complete Guide to Drawing from Life, this is page 144 on the torso. But the way I tend to approach Bridgman is I just look at it and I ask myself, well, what am I looking at? Well, I'm looking at the rib cage, and I'm looking at the rib cage from the back. So I just make a simple rib cage, and I say, all right, he's showing us how the muscles attach. So there's a big mass up there. The major first thing he's got here, the muscle he calls number 1 is the trapezius, which he's got broken into 3 sections. There's the section of the trapezius, which is first mass, which is the part that goes up the neck. So when we think of like our trapezius, we think of it as part of our shoulders going up the neck. But that's one section. And there's another section that's square right in the middle of the back. And then there's the last section, which is going down the rib cage. And I'm looking at this. You guys tell me, because I'm looking at the screen and I can barely see it on the screen. I can see it perfectly fine in front of me drawing. But when I'm looking at the screen while I'm telling you what I'm drawing, it looks fine to me. Let's see here. Yeah, Yadi says, you say, so you say to analyze, not just copy, tone to tone, line to line. Yeah, exactly. I really don't think that copying exactly what's there is necessarily the point. It's drawing for understanding. That's the phrase that I like to use, which is just looking and saying, all right, so we've got these three masses that make up the trapezius. And then he's got the deltoid. And he kind of shows you that you do have to know a little bit of anatomy. And that's one of the things I actually say about Bridgman that's challenging. I once asked some people, and I got a lot of argument on both sides about whether Bridgman is good for beginning artists to study. Because Bridgman is full of tons of valuable anatomical information for artists. But I am of the opinion that you kind of already need to know a little bit of anatomy in order to even understand what he's doing. Because, like, for instance, drawing here the deltoid, it's got the top of that, and it's sitting on the shoulder blades, the clavicle. And it's turned probably out to the left. You're not seeing this underneath, but I know it's turning out to the left because this arm is raised. And when the arm is raised, the clavicle swings out with it. Normally the clavicle is just straight up and down, but it's swinging out to the side with this arm that's going up here. And he's not calling it out that way, but there's the tricep coming out from underneath the deltoid, and there's the bicep on the other side. And then he's giving you the latissimus, which is going up underneath the tricep there. And this is a large muscle that's basically a large flat muscle that's running next to the trapezius. So it's 1, 2, 3. Now for me, when it comes to understanding Bridgman, I would draw a simple diagram like this. And then what I do is I look at my own diagram and I'm saying, well, do I understand this? Does this make sense to me? And if I look at this and I can't make heads or tails of it, then I would probably just draw this diagram again, try to simplify it, maybe draw it from different angles. He kind of shows you, again, the drawings are very, very light here, but he shows you right next to this another drawing that is what I was talking about in terms of if you've got the arm reaching up, he's got the clavicle in there. And if you can see the clavicle, he actually has it, the angle is out to the left. As opposed to being, because the way the clavicle is normally shaped, and again, it's the challenge of drawing with the camera away from the, a little bit higher up. Normally the clavicle, when it's sitting up and down, it's got that socket there for the upper arm, the humerus. It's sitting like this. And that raising of the arm, the muscles pull it upward. The point is that with anything like this, in any of Bridgman's books, a lot of this can be very, very complicated. And more often than not, it's a matter of drawing the same diagram a couple of times until you actually understand what you're looking at. So it's sort of working out the problems by examination. I hope that that is useful and helpful. And if you have further questions, feel free to ask. Let's see, a lot of great comments in the chat. You know, Amar says, applying it to the figure, it's just a composition of all those things put together. Yati says, I strongly recommend Glenn Villepeu's books on drawing. I've only taken one class with Glenn Villepeu, but like a workshop, not even a full like a multi-week class. But yeah, I learned a ton from his class. He's a great teacher. I think his books are kind of expensive and hard to get a hold of, but you know, the knowledge he has to share is well worth it. Put that book away. All right. back to the dragons. Yeah, Yadi says if you just draw from stuff, if you just draw from life, you won't know how to come up with stuff like your own poses. But without studying the figure, there's 99% chance it won't look proper. Yeah, you kind of have to do both drawing from life, drawing from art books, and drawing from imagination. It helps if you can do all of if you can make time to make all of those things part of your creative study. Let's see what happens if I angle this down a little bit more. Yeah, I feel like this is too high. All right, slightly better. Yeah, lots of great comments in the chat. I'm skipping over a few, but Amar says repetition and detail study is key, which I definitely agree to. He said life drawing is always fun, either in a class or presentation format. Yadi says, if you're serious about it, discipline and motivation will march steadily right behind passion. Yeah, you know, that's the funny thing. A lot of people talk about artists having natural talent, and talent is, you know, does help to some degree in terms of getting you started. But more often than not, I think what really makes the difference between somebody who excels at a certain craft, art, music, what have you, is the interest, to the degree that you will study for hours on end and not getting bored. I think that's the real ability there. That's the real magic, is not being bored by the material. There's lots of people who want to be able to draw but don't actually spend any time doing the work. And I actually think that not everyone can be a genius, but I think the basic skills of draftsmanship can be learned by most people if they're interested. It's just most people don't want to spend the hours to do it. Like, you know, same with music. I think a lot of people can be, you know, a serviceable piano player if they take the time to, you know, you're not going to be Elton John, but if you take the time to actually study, play for a few hours a day, and you actually enjoy playing, then you're going to develop the skills and the craft to, you know, be able to hang around, play songs with friends, have a sing along, that kind of thing. You know, you might not be a concert pianist, but you can learn how to, you know, play a basic tune. I think the same is true of art. And more often than not, it's just not necessarily enjoying the act enough that you want to do it. Like, I take figure drawing classes every week, and yes, it's because I want to be better, but I don't think I would put as much time into it as I did if I didn't actually enjoy the process. And I've talked about this, you know, I've mentioned this in the art book study group we have on Patreon, that for me, I started taking figure drawing classes simply as a means to an end. I wanted to become a better illustrator so I could make better comics. But what I found over time was that I really fell in love with studying the human figure. Now to the point where, you know, if for some reason I was never going to make comics again, if I were just doing figure studies the rest of my life, I mean, I'd be disappointed that I couldn't make comics, but I find drawing the human figure intriguing enough, entrancing enough, entertaining enough that I'm like, I could just keep doing this. So what I'm trying to do right now is just work out exactly how I want the neck to attach to the head, because I kind of have the head in the little sketch I have up here. You know, I kind of have the head coming up and then down and then facing back up again. And I thought, I like it better. I really want the jaws as wide open as possible. I'm going to drop the camera back down to where I had it before, just because that you really can't. You guys tell me. I really feel like when I had it raised up like that you can, with how thin these lines are, and I'm not drawing in pen, that it's really, really hard for you guys to. It looks to me on the screen like it's hard to see what I'm drawing. Another reason why I frequently tend to draw in pen instead of pencil. But I've been recently thinking, like, in terms of, I've been doing a lot more analytical drawing, and pen serves its purpose in terms of making you commit to lines and be direct. But when you're really trying to explore and wander, pencil is like, you can build up values. I mean, you can build up values with a pen too, but there's something about the wandering nature of the pencil, the scribbly nature, that I find very useful for doing exploratory drawings. And that's not to say you can't do exploratory drawings in ink as well. They just have a different feel to them. And once you get to a certain point, it's done. Whereas, with pencil, one of the things I intended to do was work out these anatomical details on this version and then come back and draw them into this pose that I'm happy with. But I think what I may do instead is just jump directly over to the tone paper and start redrawing it that way. Let's see here. Johnny Fitz is in the chat. Let's see here. Good to see you, man. Let's see here. Oh, talk about the talent thing. Let's see. Byron says, I have no talent to be in art, to be honest. The only reason I was able to catch up is because I have a talent known as obsession. Drawing every day for 1 to 5 hours over the course of 3 years can do a lot. Yeah, I have seen a lot of people who have talent but aren't interested, never practice, and they don't excel. Then I see people who just love the process and are really interested and committed in studying that end up doing amazing work. Let's see here. Yeah, Amar says, I look at the propensity or aptitude for an artist or creatives as part of their nature, but I believe more in skill than talent. So that way anyone can learn how to sing, dance, draw, act. Let's see. Yadi says, people talk about talent being born with it, but one can increase one's talent through studying, through repetition. I don't know if you're increasing. Well, that goes back to what Amar says. That's not increasing your talent. That's increasing your skill, your mastery over the abilities. I think talent is innate, but talent is finite. Skill is not. Talent is being born 6'10" and wanting to be in the NBA. Skill is doing free throws, practicing 3-pointers, running drills, and they're two very different things. You might have a physical aptitude. Like, for instance, just in terms of your brain, your eye-hand coordination can affect your drawing in terms of how you perceive. Like, you might be able to see something very clearly in your mind and understand it, but if your eye-hand coordination isn't great, then it may make it more difficult for you to get what you see in your mind's eye onto the paper. But that's you having a deficiency in a talent, but skill can overcome that with practice. Let's see here. Yeah, Byron says, I think of talent as an innate starting point. Everything else is built skill. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to skim through the comments just to make sure in case there's anything here I need to comment on. But it sounds like you guys are all in agreement with me. Yeah, Amar says people overuse the word talent, but no one is more special than the next person. And Johnny, I see you. I hope that you're well as well. It was just everyone watching the stream and in the chat well. Let's see here. See, Amar says that even when someone is a child, they say you're talented, and he says, I didn't really accept it. Byron says, I disagree with that. I've seen there are some people that just have it. I've seen 7-year-olds that can do hyper-realism, but those people are extremely rare. Everyone else has got to do it the hard way. Yes, very true. Let's see. Amar says 7-year-olds doing hyper-realism is not a talent. I don't know. It depends. Let me put it this way. I can't do hyper-realism now, and I'm in my 40s. So I think that there is an innate talent, but I think that it's true that some people are better. Some people, I think, are better at realism versus drawing from their imagination. I think that the people who really amaze me are the people who can do both exceedingly well, like your Drew Struzans. People who can draw both just making stuff up and working directly from, or either working from reference or just having such a great understanding of anatomy, light, tone, and volume that they can draw rather realistically. But there are also, generally speaking, I found that most people, artists who can draw realistically, find it more challenging to draw imaginatively, and they tend to envy artists who can draw from their imagination. And it tends to be like the grass is always greener. And then you get the artists who just work on getting better at whatever their deficiencies are. Let's see here. Dr. Thomas asks, what's my opinion of Jim Lee's work? I think Jim Lee's art is really cool. I have all those early Jim Lee X-Men issues. I have most of his run in original issues. I read those when I was a kid. They were coming out when I was in junior high and high school. I do like Mark Silvestri a little bit more than Jim Lee, but you know, I think he's a great artist. His Batman work's really cool. You know, the work he's been doing throughout the years. Yeah, I like his work. Why do you ask? Let's see here. I mean, but also, I think I'm not necessarily a great person to ask about what do you like, what do you think of this artist, what do you think of that artist, because I have very, very broad tastes. For instance, my favorite artist is probably Bill Sienkiewicz, and the reason why Bill Sienkiewicz is my favorite artist is because I think in junior high and high school, when I started reading comics, I didn't have a set style of art that I was a fan of. You know, I like Walter Simonson. I like John Byrne. I like Frank Miller. You know, I like Klaus Janson. I like Dick Giordano. You know, I like George Perez. You know, I like all the image founders. Like for the most part, if you name an artist, I like them. Like I like Mike Mignola. There's I can't really think of a particular comic artist that I dislike. And if I did, I feel like it would be rude to say that. But that said, most of the artists that I grew up experiencing in mainstream, you know, I might be drawn to some styles over the other, but I recognized that all of them, if they were good storytellers, then I enjoyed their work. You know, I like Alex Toth and David Mazzucchelli. And, you know, there again, I think of those two because they both have that kind of stripped down, like, they both excel at doing simplified forms, not in terms of like, oh, they're just not complicated. It's just they strip the artwork down to its essence. You know, I like Brian Stelfreeze, both his painted stuff and his illustrative stuff. I'm all over the map. And that just, it all ties back into Bill Sienkiewicz in the fact that I had all these different tastes. Like I just loved comics, you know, European comics, manga comics, you know, like Masamune Shirow. He's one of my favorites. I wish I could remember the name of the artist who did Outlanders, but Outlanders is probably my all-time favorite manga, and I never see it reprinted anywhere. You know, I like the artist who does Blade of the Immortal. There's all, I just love art. And when I discovered Bill Sienkiewicz's work and I saw him working, you know, he would have watercolor on one page, scratchboard on another, you know, impressionistic artwork, simple line drawings, that are cartoony, some that are photorealistic, working photocopies and mixed media. I saw that, oh, you don't have to pick one style. So what appealed to me about Bill Sienkiewicz is that kind of like that idea of don't pick one style and become good at it. He mastered all of them and would just use them as needed. And you know, I find that's why I say that the whole idea of asking me, what do I think of this artist? What do I think of that artist? My tastes are so varied that generally I'm probably going to say, oh, they're cool. Because I think most comic artists are really cool. I think that making comics is an incredibly challenging, it's an incredibly challenging medium because you have to have a wide discipline in terms of the types of things, the variety of things you can draw. You have to be fast. You have to be a good storyteller. I like a lot of different comic artists. So yeah, there's that. Let's see here. I'm zooming down. Oh yeah, Dr. Thomas said, Jim Lee's my favorite artist. I just asked for your opinion about it. Thanks for your answer. Let's see here. Amar says, back on the hyperrealism thing. Yeah, Cassiel says, I'm back and there's a lot to read here. Yeah, I'll tell you this. The chats have become very lively lately, and now I've gotten to the point, and I apologize if for anyone watching, if you leave a comment and I don't read it, it's not that I'm intentionally skipping over people. It's that the chat has become so lively over the past few months, which I think is very, very cool and I like. But a lot of times it means that when I come back, I'll be drawn for a little bit and I'll come back and like 30 comments have come through. So I try to just come through and pick a few here and there and respond where I can. Let's see. Amar says, I would have been able to do hyperrealism. It's all about how you see, not about training or where you're at in life. I do think that you do need some sort of training to do hyperrealism, because I don't think that humans by nature are just, cameras just look at stuff and draw it. I mean, some people well, then again, I'm speaking from my own experience. My own experience is that I can't, but maybe there's a lot of people who can. So I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority. Let's see here. Byron poses an interesting question. Wouldn't seeing different prove the point of a talent? If someone can only see things in abstract blobs, would they innately have a harder time doing realism? Well, that's I think that's an interesting point. Because some people, it's not that they can't see, it's that they don't take the time to observe. I think that I am still learning how to be more observant in life. Oh, let me bring this down so you guys can actually see. Now I'm going in and just refining this drawing. Now that I have a better sense of what I want the head to do, just coming in and refining that a little bit. Yeah, I think that realism would be hard for somebody who just didn't see the world, who just didn't pay attention to detail. Let's see here. Amar says, for me, it's more impressive to be able to do any style. Well, that comes back to Bill Sienkiewicz for my money. He's one of the most versatile artists out there. And yeah, Dr. Thomas Elliott says, I guess my username already shows how much I admire Jim Lee's work. Yeah, that's the for those who haven't read Jim Lee's Hush, that's the name of the spoilers. It's the one. Well, I'll just say that he's one of the main characters in the book Hush, and he plays a childhood friend of Bruce Wayne's. A particularly great Batman story and a great example of Jim Lee's work. Let's see here. Amar says, if a 7-year-old could sit down and do any style, I would be more impressed. Could sit down and do any style, would be more impressed than doing what is called hyperrealism. Well, I think that really comes down to what people are good at, because maybe, Amar, you are just better at realism than most people, because I know a lot of artists who find realism very, very challenging. And that's one of the reasons why realism channels, like YouTube channels that specify showing you how to draw in sort of a concept artist style. Like I was actually talking with a friend of mine texting the other day, and I called it Blizzard Vogue, which is drawing imaginative fantasy artwork, but drawing it as though it were realistic. And I termed that style Blizzard Vogue because that, you know, that first off, it's not meant as a it's not meant in a derogatory sense. I think the concept artwork of Blizzard is amazing, and I think the artists who work at Blizzard do amazing work. I was fortunate enough to get to take a tour of the studios once a few years back, and it's just the amount of art they have there, and the quality of the artists there are amazing. But I think that that style of doing fantasy but making it look realistic, it's what's popular because that's what's in game art, and I think a lot of up and coming artists are drawn to that style, and so that's why I think realism is particularly popular. You know, even like people, we've had a conversation here about why don't I have more viewers, why don't I have more followers. Part of it is also just maybe the style of work I'm doing. Like I'm not necessarily concerned about style. Most of my work is more about the rough and ugly process of refining ideas. I just think I do a lot more of that than I do actually work about particular styles. And I don't do work that looks like manga, and I don't do work that looks like game art. And that's what's popular right now. If I were just do a video, how to draw manga style in 3 easy steps, you know, that video could get a whole bunch of viewers, but it also wouldn't necessarily be, one, it isn't what I specialize in. And two, if I did that video and I got a whole bunch of viewers, then those viewers would be expecting me to do more manga style art. And then what happens when I don't do more of what what people are expecting? Point being is that I think that a lot of people want to learn how to draw realistically. And that's why that style of art is very popular on YouTube channels. And I would say that to a certain degree that people do have more trouble with realism, hyperrealism, than they do with imaginative drawing. But that is anecdotal. I don't have any data to back that up. That's just me, you know, talking off the dome from what I see out there in the world. Let's see here. Peter Palmiotti's in the chat. The great Peter Palmiotti says Jeremy's a popular dude. Peter, you're a popular dude. I learned it from watching you. If you guys have not checked out his YouTube channel, you definitely should. Amazing artist doing his great indie comic retro right now. You should definitely head over to his channel and check out his work. And he has inked some of the greatest artists in the industry. Let's see here. Amar says a lot of people have different perspectives on hyperrealism. Most artists that call art hyperrealistic is not hyperrealism. And he says, I've looked at Nigerian kids, a lot of Nigerian kids doing hyperrealism. Let's see. Cassiel says some hyperrealistic arts are more palpable than photos. Well, you know, I mean, a lot of times they'll get in there and they'll put in details that you wouldn't even be able to see in a photo. You know, you can see the pores in a certain way. And maybe if the artist, you know, if a photographer was specifically using a macro lens and trying to capture certain details, then yeah, it would look, they could capture those details in a photo. But a lot of times artists, the thing about art is that we can be selective about where we put our focus. And while photographers, they can retouch their photos, they can also shoot to capture specific details, and they can play up some elements and play down others. Generally speaking, they're working, you know, with what's in front of them, whereas illustrators are more often than not injecting their own aesthetic into the work. Hell, this little sketch I've got up here is actually becoming so muddy, it's almost like a tonal sketch on its own. Right? I think at this point I'm ready to switch over to the toned sketchbook. Let's see here. Amar says it's due to the nature of their environment. Most of those kids are in an environment and a culture that promotes that. In some cases, the parents are artists. That's why choose to be able to do any style. Be like water or clay. He says, I have not done much realism in 20 years or so, but I remember how to do it. So it may be I could spend 3 solid months just doing it. In less than a year, I could do hyperrealism. This is that goes the same for other styles. The sad thing of having my own style is I can learn other styles or be creative enough to do my own. Well, you know what? I mean, in the end, it's not like I think it's bad that someone does hyperrealism or that I diss that anyone does hyperrealism. It doesn't interest me in doing hyperrealism myself, but I've said it many times here. I believe that it does take a lot of skill. But that's because it's hard for me. Maybe it's not hard for you. But for me, I feel like hyperrealism is very challenging. So I don't want it to sound like sour grapes when I say it's not a style that I'm interested in. I still have a lot of respect for it. But when it comes to what I want to spend my time towards executing, I'd say for me, it's less about the style and more about what information I'm able to communicate. And that tends to be visual storytelling, whether I'm doing a standalone piece or whether I'm drawing a comic. That's what interests me, is the visual storytelling. And I feel like if you're doing photorealism or hyperrealism, the amount of time it takes, because that's the thing, it takes a lot of time to do a photorealistic or a hyperrealistic piece. You're putting in a lot of detail and a lot of data. The amount of time it takes to do that, I think, would eat up. It would consume the time that you would put towards the storytelling. And that's the reason I think why I'm not particularly interested in it. If you could do hyper realistic comics and do them as fast as you do, say, a Will Eisner or a Chris Samnee. Chris Samnee is an artist I often think of. Like, to me, he seems like a modern day Alex Toth. And if you guys have not looked him up, you definitely should. He's an amazing storyteller, and his work has a slightly cartoony feel to it, but it's like he has stripped down what is the essence of what he needs in order to tell a story, and he gets that on the page, and it just looks fantastic. He's somebody who I definitely think of a lot when I think of somebody who can. My point is that he's super fast. He is fast. He can stay on a monthly schedule, crank out amazing work. And I'm more interested in doing work that is telling a story visually, whether it's a standalone piece or a comic, than I am doing something that accurately represents either what something looks like in real life or drawing a fantasy creature and making it look as if it's really there. Back to the Blizzard concept artwork style. Now, one of the things that's going to take me some time to work out in this piece is that I wanted to I actually want to make this in a higher key, meaning overall a brighter piece as opposed to a darker piece. Let's see here. scroll back up to the chat. Let's see here. Cassiel says, how many years that you do art to learn this stuff and philosophy like that? I think that I don't know if that question's for Amar, but Amar says, I'm an old fart, so I would say it's from life and observation. He says, when you see the process, it's done via taking a lot of photos at a large scale. Let's see here. I know for me, I mean, I've been drawing since I was a kid, and I'm in my 40s now, but I also don't feel like I have mastered being an artist. I am very grateful for anyone that has kind things to say about my work, but I still feel like I think that what I have to share with the internet and what I think is interesting is that we either tend to see artists that are just absolute beginners and really don't have much mastery or craft, or we see artists that are master draftsmen. Everyone loves their work, whether they're doing it in a unique style or a style that's popular. You know, they're fully formed, and I think that I'm in a middle ground place where, you know, I have a lot of knowledge about anatomy. I've got a lot of knowledge about visual storytelling, perspective, drawing fundamentals. I have a lot of knowledge, but I'm still not a master. And I spend a lot of my time kind of showing a phase that I guess really I think of it as an ugly in-between phase, you know? That phase where an artist is kind of like in the middle of them still developing, working their way towards mastery or working their way towards fruition. And I think it's a phase that I don't think people see a lot. I think that people tend to either see the artist who has mastered their craft or someone who, you know, you're not necessarily interested in looking at because they're, you know, they haven't done anything or don't really have much skill. And I think trying to see just the incremental progress that I've made like over the years, like when you go back, if you see some of my older videos, you know, I definitely feel like you can see that I have grown as an artist since I started YouTubing. But a large part of that has been figure drawing classes. It's been making, you know, 8 issues of a comic book series over a number of years, plus you know, little side projects here and there, plus illustrations, just showing the process. I think that there's definitely been growth there, and you can see that over the course of my channel. But growth and mastery are not the same. I see Castiel said the thing about the philosophy question, about him saying, yeah, the question was for Amar. Yadi says, I have my own style that I've searched for a long time now. Going manga or popular, semi-realistic wouldn't feel popular, wouldn't feel proper. Well, you know, it's good that you have a sense of what you don't want and you're able to move towards that. Let's see. Amara says, sorry about that. Got a call. It took forever. She said, wow, missed a lot. I'll rewatch. I'll rewatch the live stream. You know what? I'll tell you, Amaris, you might want to have the chat open while you're watching it, because a lot of this is me looking up and responding to some stuff in the chat. But the chat, again, like I said, super lively. Wow, we're already at almost an hour here. Let's see here. And we talk about Amar and his work in art. The long question short is that Yadi asked if Amar works as an artist full-time. He says, I work in IT, and I've tried to do art full-time as an artist. The internet, the art as an artist before the internet. It says art is a business. I was terrible at the business of marketing. They said I'm going to make a go at it again, but I've tried numerous times. You know, I mean, I've mentioned to you guys, hey, I work as an artist, but I work mostly in graphic design. You know, I'm a toy designer, which is a very fun job, but it has surprisingly far less drawing in it than you would think. So I'm really not spending a lot of time practicing my art skills at my day job. Most of my time in terms of trying to improve and work on my craft is coming from going to figure drawing classes and doing these live streams. Yadi asks, do you do portfolio reviews? I've never done one before, but I mean, if you want to send me a portfolio, that would be fine. The best way to reach out to me is there's a bunch of links on my on the homepage of my channel. If you go up to like the top where the graphic of Morningstar is, there's a bunch of links there. And there should be a link that will take you to my main website. And you can just email me a link to your portfolio there. If you want, we can do it here on the stream. You know, you can send it and then we can just have you on during a live stream and we'll, you know, we can talk if you feel comfortable with that, with having other people on here while we're talking about your work. But here's the thing. I feel like a portfolio review, I would be happy to give you feedback, but it depends on what your goals are, because if your goals are to get work at Marvel or DC, then I can try and tell you, I think they want this, I think they want that. But in the end, you'd be much better off. Like, talking to me could be a good starting point, but what you would really want is a portfolio review from someone who actually works in mainstream comics. Because even if I tell you what I do and what I think is good or bad or things you should work on, my opinion is not necessarily as valuable as that of someone who is actually doing the thing you want to do. So the question is, what are your goals? Are your goals to be a concept art for video games or for film, to be a storyboard artist, to work in animation? Because that's the other thing. Sometimes people will make a portfolio and they'll try to put everything they have in that portfolio instead of saying, I want this job, and making your portfolio specific to the job they're trying to get. So that's the other thing I would say. And before you were to send me a portfolio, think, does your portfolio accurately represent the job that you want? And that's another thing that I have told people before, and people have told me really good advice, which is don't put things in your portfolio if you don't want to do them. Like, if you hate drawing horses, don't put horses in your portfolio just because you think it'll get you a job, because it may get you a job and then you're stuck drawing something you hate. You know, if you hate drawing mech and robots, don't put a bunch of mech and robots in your portfolio. If you don't like manga, don't put manga artwork in your portfolio, if, you know, because all you're going to do is get hired to draw manga. And vice versa. If you don't want to do mainstream superhero comics, don't put superheroes in your portfolio just because you think, oh, superheroes are popular. You have to also, you know, you have to adapt your portfolio towards the thing, the career that you that you're trying to do. Yeah, Byron says commercial and entertainment are easier than fine art as a career. I mean, video games, you look at how many games are out there and how popular they are. That seems like that's actually a really great way to go. But you're probably better off, if you're trying to get into games, trying to get a job as an environmental artist or learning 3D. It's not necessarily about, you want to have draftsmanship skills, because I think in most gaming companies, they want people who have artistic knowledge. They have people who have the backgrounds and skills, the ability to draw. But the entry-level jobs tend to be like doing texture mapping or modeling. I'm not saying that modeling environments is simple, but I think that as opposed to coming in and being a character designer for video games, because that's I don't know, it's a splashier looking job. You're drawing cool figures and characters, and you want to say, I designed this character for this video game and it looks awesome. The jobs that are higher in demand are the jobs that are harder to get, and your portfolio has to be that much better. So you also need to think about that in terms of what are the jobs you're actually going to be able to break in as? Let's see here. Amar says to Yati, people tend to want to listen to people with huge following and more notoriety, but I would be glad to provide any insight I can. Yeah, and Amar also has. I'm putting his name back up there. You can search for Art with Amar B. Look for him on YouTube. Look for his channel. He's got tons of great videos where he shows you his process, and he does a lot of, along with the drawing comics, he does a lot of great 3D work. You know, working with Blender, doing 3D models. Negro Frazetta's in the chat. Amar says, I say learn a technical skill that evolves around art that will make you more marketable. Let's see here. Castiel says, I plan to do anything with art, concept, illustration, animation. I just want to be able to create worlds and characters. Maybe I can do abstract art, so many possibilities. You need to pick one. I'm not saying that you need to pick one and that you can't change, but in terms of getting a job, you need a starting point to say, all right, if I have to go into the industry with a job, people don't want portfolios filled with everything. People want portfolios, the people who hire for jobs, they want to see that you can do the specific job that they need. So I think it would behoove you to think about what you actually want to do in anime, in what industry, first off. If you had to pick between video games or animation or concept art for films, like, what would you pick? And then once you would pick it, say what are the jobs within that? Do you want to be, you know, an environmental artist? Do you want to be a character designer? Do you want to be a storyboard artist? And then start, you know, researching what like, for instance, ArtStation. ArtStation is great for portfolio reference. And I would say this to anybody who wanted a portfolio review. First off, take a look at first off, I would also say get one of those art of game books, like the art of Metal Gear Solid, or Metal Gear Solid's a bad example because it's so stylized, but like the God of War games or Call of Duty. Pick a genre and then look at the games and look at the artwork in there. Then go on ArtStation and say, all right, if you want to be a character designer, look up character design on ArtStation and look up games and compare your portfolios to portfolios of people on there. I would say that that's a good starting point. But it's a big research project. Just saying I want to do everything, if you say you want to do everything, it's going to take you longer to find work. So if you're it's fine to want to do everything. If you want to be your own boss and you want to just make art for you and sell it to people, then you shouldn't box yourself in. But if you want a career making artwork for a company, then you need to decide, you need to start with specializing, and then from there decide what else would you like to do. Let's see here. Running through a bunch more comments here. Amar says, unless you're great at marketing and can sell yourself as a brand in that way that captivates and draws your art. Let's see. New person to chat. Oscar's here. Says, cool Dragon 9 drawing. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I didn't even notice that it was making the number 9. I was just trying to move the dragon's neck around in an interesting manner. I'm still always worried that the camera's not showing enough or isn't clear enough. I haven't even gotten to what I really intended to do, which was blocking out the values. And trying to work out, you know, making this image high key versus low key. Not Loki, the Norse god. High key is in a mostly dark image versus a mostly light image. So I wanted to come in here with some white pencil. And give this thing a more sense of volume. Let's see here. Yadi says to Amar, I'd be happy if you just look at my folio and provide any insights. He said, maybe a portfolio review is too much of a word. It's just a DeviantArt with a bunch of drawings I've done recently. Neymar says, as long as you don't mind honesty, I know it's hard in today's climate. Let's see here. Woohoo! My buddy Zeus Toves, my buddy Jesse Toves is in here. He says, growth and mastery are not the same thing. Some of the wisest words you've ever said on this channel. Thank you. I'm glad that I've said at least something wise in the years I've been doing this. Oh, you know what? Speaking of the channel, I was going to tell you guys, I have not posted it scheduled here yet because I need to confirm. But this coming week, I'm planning to have a midweek live stream on Wednesday. It'll be in the evening. Pacific Standard Time in the U.S. But I'm going to be talking with my friend Dan Plagle about his crowdfunding campaign for his comic book Goblin Girl. So we talked last week about getting him on the channel to talk about his campaign, and we're tentatively scheduled for this Wednesday. So I will hopefully get that confirmed and get it posted on the front page of the channel in the next day or two, so that you guys can hit the reminder button on that and catch it, because it's not going to be our normal Sunday live stream. And I'm also letting you know so that you also know, I'm not changing the night, the day or the time that we're doing the regular live streams. This is just going to be a special occasion because he wouldn't be able to make the normal Sunday live streams. It's just going to be a easier for us to schedule it. This was the best time we could find that worked for both of us. So let's see here. Yeah, by the way, I know that Amar was asking for the website, for the URL for the website. Just so you guys know, I think that on YouTube, the only person who can post URLs is myself or a moderator in the chat. So Yadi's gonna have to go to Amar. He's gonna have to go to your profile page and click on there to message you. Yeah. What? There we go. That's interesting. It says, Yadi says it works. I thought the chat censors links. There we go. I'm surprised. I thought that the chat censored links as well. And not that I'm against it. It just keeps spam out. I would, if I had the ability to approve links, I would definitely approve yours. But I guess it lets you guys post it. So good. I'm glad it works. And Amar's got his on there. He says, I'm on Discord and I'm everywhere, Art with AMRB, everywhere. So definitely check him out. Oscar says, I can drawing dragon in the house. Cool. Amar, you have so much knowledge and experience. You could honestly just make your channel feedback portfolio reviews with Amar and just have artists come on and do portfolio reviews. I think the only reason why I wouldn't necessarily, I don't mind doing them, but I'm so much more interested in spending my time on YouTube just doing my work and and drawing. I'm more interested in that. But I think, Amar, you have a lot of knowledge and you definitely love sharing it. I think that you giving portfolio reviews as a thing on your channel might actually be really cool. So I don't know if that's something that you'd be interested in doing as an ongoing thing, but I could see you really excelling and having your channel really grow explosively with you doing that kind of work. Let's see here. Yadi says, I invite everyone to my DA and to smear me with criticism. All right. Well, hopefully people will be thoughtful with constructive criticism as opposed to just coming in and trying to slaughter you. Yadi says, right now I have no goals. I'm interested in people's opinions and any hints. I'm still trying to find my way. It says, I know there's no greater pleasure than drawing, so I need to monetize it somehow to not suffer through another job. Maybe that's stupid, but I feel that's right. No. Oh, that's right now. Well, you know what? I mean, when I tell you the whole thing about figuring out what you want to do, there are artists who work in multiple genres or multiple fields. They will work in animation, and then they'll work in video games, and they'll work in film, and they'll also do comics. It's possible to go back and forth and do all of them. But the question is just if you really want to start working right away. Like, portfolio reviews to me are not just what do you think of my artwork? It's what do you want to get out of the review? If the goal is I want to improve my draftsmanship, then you simply say, all right, my goal is to improve my draftsmanship. Tell me how I can do that. But a portfolio, that's why you corrected yourself and said, I guess I don't really want a portfolio review. You said you just want feedback on your artwork. And I remember you saying that, and I note that. But something you might want to keep in mind for the future is that you, at some point, I think you are going to want portfolio reviews. And when you ask for them, it should be with the sense of, what do I want to do? And I know that there can be, it might be unfair. You might feel like it's a lot of pressure to try and figure out what you want to do with your art when you're still figuring yourself out artistically. It might be too early in your career for you to really know what it is you want to do. That's fair. But I think you want to keep that in mind, that that's something to, people can help you more if they know what it is you want to do. And in fact, the type of feedback a person would give you will change depending on what field you're interested in. Now, Oscar, talking about the art of game books, Oscar says 3 Capcom and Marvel, DC and Marvel. I guess the Capcom versus games. Those are very popular, cool ass games. I haven't seen the art of books, but I mean the Capcom concept art that I've seen over the years is awesome. Amar says, well said. I always focus on doing what you love and doing that well, building content that way, because it will always inspire you to do more art. Yadi says those are great tips. I learned the hard way in 2017 with painted illustrations. Byron says, too true. I've seen some people that put landscapes in their portfolio for concept art, and they hate drawing landscapes. Yeah, I mean, there's 2 ideas here. There's getting a job, and then there's getting a job that you hate, which, Yadi, you've already said you're stuck in a job that you hate. It's possible to have a job making art and still hating it. So it is definitely something to keep in mind that, and there are a lot of artists, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar, because I don't think his channel has been around for a while, but there's an artist named Chris Oatley who used to do this podcast called the Artcast. Or not the Artcast. I think it was Illustration. Was it Illustration Island? Illustration Weekly. The point is, it was Chris Oatley's Artcast. That was the name, I think, of his original either YouTube channel or his original podcast. And he was a guy who worked, I believe, at Disney. And there's a few different artists that I've come across over the years who got that brass ring of being an animator or a concept artist at Disney, that most people would say, well, that's the dream job. And then they did it for 5 years, 10 years, and they said, I learned a lot. I appreciate how much I've grown from working this job, but I don't want to do this anymore. And that's not to say that it might be worthwhile to travel that path, because the things you learn in doing, you might not learn any other way than just going and spending years working at an art job in an environment where you're learning from more experienced artists, you're picking up fundamentals that you haven't mastered yet, all kinds of things. But in the long run, maybe it's better for you to just figure out your path as you go, because you might still have to go and work jobs that you may have started off liking and then end up growing to say, all right, I liked this for a couple of years, but I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, it's also very possible. Hell, there's people who make comics and do it for a few years and they're just like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. It's true for a lot of people. People change. It's not even necessarily artwork. There's people who are doctors and lawyers for a few years, and then they decide, you know what, I don't like this. I don't want to do it anymore, and they change careers. So that's what I'd say. I'd say continue to lean into the things you're passionate about, and continue to think about, all right, what do I want to do for money versus what do I want to do for art? For instance, one of the reasons why I'm perfectly happy doing toy design and not doing my comics full time is because, honestly, designing toys is easier. I think I probably have more talent for it than I do for comics and storytelling. The comics and storytelling is harder work, and if I had to do it at the pace in which I have to design toys, it would kill me. Whereas the toy design stuff, it's not that it's effortless, it's just it builds on so many skills I've developed over the years that I know the process and I can do it quickly and efficiently. And I think that there's something to be said for choosing to spend your career doing something that is easier for you, that you've got more mastery over, than it is just saying, I'm going to do this one job no matter how hard it is. Because all kinds of illustration is incredibly challenging. Now, I'm going to basically run through the last few comments here and then wrap it up, because we're almost at an hour and a half here. And that's good. It seems like the live streams are starting to run longer and longer because we got, so many great comments. But so if you have any last minute comments or questions, and don't forget, you guys can also comment, leave comments on the video, even if the video is done. If people are watching the replays, you're watching it later, and you want to jump in, you have thoughts about the stuff we've talked about here, there's things you want to mention or want us to check out or bring up in following episodes, the comments are always there. I check the comments regularly. If I don't respond right away, feel free to leave another comment or a comment on another video. I'll catch them eventually, but I want it to be an ongoing conversation, not just what we have here when we're live. Let's see here. Cassiel says, I've seen a PDF of Ron Lemon. He has two methods to figure out and build forms from the figure: the Riley method and the armature method. One utilizes rhythms, the other cylinders. You know what? It's funny. That's something that we've also talked about in the art book study group. Let's see here. He says one focuses more on gesture, the other on structure. He says to master both. I definitely agree in terms of mastering both. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Riley method itself. I've studied it a little bit. I tend to be more of a constructive form and volume guy. And that's not to say that the Riley method is bad. I always tell people, like, my opinions are just opinions. I think that anybody who can produce artwork that they enjoy, that they're proud of, that they feel expresses what's in their mind, then that's what they should focus on. I never want to tell people, oh, this method is bad, this approach is bad. Some approaches can get you the results you want faster, sooner, but it's like Amar said, master all of the approaches and then pick the approach that suits whatever you're doing at the time. I am much more in line with that line of thinking than just saying do this or do that. And I think Ron Lemon is probably just, I've met him and he's a great teacher. I've met him at a workshop I went to years ago. Super nice guy, amazing artist. I think that, he's probably mentioning it from the standpoint of these are the methods that I use. And, like he said, master both, they both are useful. But I would guess, even though I never asked him directly when I talked to him about the idea of having as many different approaches as possible, the site size approach in terms of just taking a drawing, getting the proper reference and gridding it, that's another approach as well. But all these things are just tools in your toolbox. That's just saying, like right next to me, I've got a little table full of like paintbrushes. I've got, charcoal pencils, colored pencils. I've got like, a acrylic paints over here, watercolor, all kinds of pens, pencils, ink. All of the approaches for constructing a drawing or developing a drawing, they're the same as having a variety of tools to actually make art. These approaches are just mental tools, like a brush or a pencil or a stick of charcoal. Siati asked, where can I email you guys, Jeremy and Amar, for hints about my folio? For me, if you just go to, I'm going to put this in the chat. Hang on. It should let my comments go through because I'm the moderator for this. It's just my main site, jeremy.net. Let me throw the banners back there. Yeah, if you just go to jeremy.net and there's a contact button there, and there you can just email me the URL that you want me to check out. So let me see. Last couple of comments here. So Amar, if you want to, well, Amar give you his. Let me scroll back up because he said it in the chat. Let me bring it up again. I've got to scroll all the way up, and it's hard because new comments are coming in. But where did he? Focus on fine art. But it's art with AMRB, and he had it here. Basically, if you look at Amar's screen name and make it all one word, I was trying to bring it up on the screen because he posted it. But if you just look at Amar's screen name, if you just make it all one word and Google that, oh, there it is. There's the comment. Yeah, all one word. Art with AMRB. Just take his screen name, make it all one word, Google it, and you'll find him, and so you can get his email address there. All right, I'm scrolling all the way down to the comments at the end because I blew through a bunch of stuff. Let's see here. Peter Palmiotti says, times are hard for most folks in today's art world. Yachty says, no shame in doing what you need to do. Best of luck. Let's see here. And Amar says, what was that name again? Did you say Ron Lemon? Yes, Ron Lemon is the name. He's a great instructor. I'm not sure where he's based now, but I believe he used to be based in Southern California. I got a chance to, he was one of the instructors at a workshop, a multi-day workshop I went to several years ago. And, it was just one of those things where, I mean, I guess I've been very, very spoiled in the sense that most of the art instructors and people I've met over the course of my just studying and learning have been incredibly cool people, thoughtful, encouraging, sharing tons of knowledge and experience. And I would definitely put Ron Lemon in that category. He's not somebody that like I am in contact with or email. It's not somebody that I stayed in touch with. I just met him at this one workshop, but the experience of meeting him and his wife, Vanessa Lemon, wow, her work is like, I put her work up there with Bill Sienkiewicz because she's much more surrealistic. And it's not that she can't do realism. She very much can, but it's very psychological and exploratory work. Like it feels like the abstract art that people who love fantasy and sci-fi art would make, because that's what she is. She's done a lot of fancy illustration, worked as a professional illustrator, but her personal work is just like is amazing. Her name's Vanessa Lemon, so you should definitely check out both of them, Ron and Vanessa Lemon. Both great artists, both great instructors, very different styles, but definitely you should check out both of their work. Let's see here. So I apologize if I missed a bunch of comments, only because I scrolled down all the way to the bottom to get caught up. Let's see here. Byron says my quest for comments. He says I'll comment for that sweet algorithm bonus. Thank you, Byron. I appreciate the bump. It's like, yes, I missed the previous comment that Peter said. He said, I don't know your situation, but if you need money today, don't rely on art sales. Just get a day job and do art on the side. And I'll tell you, I 110% agree with Peter. The fact that I don't think I would be able to finish my comic if I had to rely on sales. I just would have given up and had to go do something else, because the sales of my comics are not to the degree where I can leave my full-time job. And I'm very grateful that I have that job and that I get to continue to do it. But it relieves a lot of the stress, because I think that people, when you have to make your living from your art, then you're kind of forced into a position where you are like, all right, what is selling? Because that's what I'm going to make, because I need to eat. Being able to make exactly the comic that I want and not have anybody else's input and make creative decisions, that's a privilege. It's a privilege that a lot of people don't have. I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. But it's my day job that allows me to do that. My day job allows me to say, you know what? I want to do a supernatural Western with angels and demons. I want to do Lucifer's Fall from Heaven as a Western. Maybe that's a marketable idea. Maybe it's not. I mean, I've sold copies of the comics at conventions. Some of you guys here have supported and picked up my comics, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm glad that people like what I've done. But it's still, it's not, I didn't make the decision based on, oh, I think this is going to sell a ton of money. I made the decision based on, this is the story that I want to tell. This is what I'm interested in. And having a stable day job that I don't hate is what allows me to do that. So, I completely, all of my answers are long and rambling, but it's a long and rambling way of saying, yes, I very much co-sign with what Peter said. Do what you need to do to make a living, and let your art, I'm not saying you shouldn't make a profit from your artwork. I'm saying let that the way that's going to take form, let that grow organically. Figure it out, over time. I can't tell any artist. Like, people come to me for advice, and you're saying, if someone come to me and said, all right, how do I make money as an artist right away? I don't know, because my sales of my art prints aren't huge. Also, I don't mention to people enough that I have prints at my jeremy.net, the main website. I don't mention enough. Maybe that's why I'm not selling sets. I don't, pimp the work on my stream, and I probably should. But that said, I'm not raking in the dough from doing that work. So I'm, as much as I try to give people good advice, I also try to be honest and clear about, there are people who specialize in the sales and marketing of art online, and they can give you better answers than I can. I'm still trying to work on just being a better artist and improving my craft. All right, let's see here. All right, guys. So oh, Yadi says I'm not stuck in my job anymore. I don't need to post that, because I guess I would say I'm sorry to hear it, but I also know how miserable you were. So I'm glad that you're not in that situation anymore. But yeah. And also, you said that finding a job in your area, that a lot of the employers don't seem like they're great. You may have to commute. I mentioned this last week. The first job that I got in the toy industry, I had a 90-minute commute each way. You might have to commute to a different city in order to find a job that fits your sensibilities and fits what you're good at. That would suck, but it sucked for me until I was able to move closer to that job. But I was happy to have it, because I was having a job that was creative and fun, and I liked the people I worked with. And I will tell you, those kind of things are, to me, I think that's really worth it. Like, I've seen people in situations where they really don't like their job and the people they work with, and it's soul sucking. And being able to do something that you're really enjoying and that you feel adds value to your life and every day, that's another one of those things that I would mark as invaluable. So all in all, I mean, it sounds like a complicated situation because you didn't want to be at that job, but you also want to do something that's more creative. Plus, you got to worry about your basic income. Find something that isn't soul sucking, that covers your bills, and continue to just make art and make things that you enjoy. Peter suggests that I should make a video and play an ad in the middle of your streams to sell comics and prints. You know what? That is a great idea. I think I need to do that. I think I need to put like a commercial break for my stuff in the middle of the live stream. All right, that's a good suggestion. Maybe I'll just make it like a simple slideshow that I talk over it. But yeah, I think that I may not get it done this week or next week or whenever, but I'm gonna do that, Pete. So, dude, thank you so much for that great comment. All right, and speaking of which, I'm going to give you guys the last couple of, in terms of, we close stuff out with by the way, so this is how far I got. I'm still going to work on the values and the lighting on the dragon, and I'm always looking at the screen there. I always feel like it's not as crisp and 4K as I would like, but, I feel like the little camera of me on the side is more crisp than the video, the cam that's here. And I do have another higher quality camera, but it really distorts the screen. So I use this one just because of the lesser distortion. All right. So again, if you enjoy these live streams and you want to get bonus live streams twice a month, you can head on over to patreon.com/Jeremy. That's patreon.com/GERIMI. We do bonus live streams twice a month. We've been doing Art Book Study Group for months now, diving into Walt Reed's The Figure, analyzing it, breaking it down. I should put one of the episodes on for free just so you guys can actually see this is what the Art Book Study Groups are. I've been meaning to post clips from it for ages, and I just get too busy week in, week out. Anyway, patreon.com/GERIMI. Newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. You'll get a free digital sketchbook PDF that you can download. And then once a month, I'll email you. I'll let you know when I've got new art books, when I've got new comics coming out, new artwork that's available to purchase. I also give you more insights into my process, along with what I show here, work in progress animated GIFs, and more. And if you'd like to purchase physical copies of my comics, let me go back to the big. Actually, no, I don't have to go back to the big screen. I realize I've got them right there in front of me. Well, see, now I have to adjust the stinking camera. My book, Eye of the Gods, psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. Black and white, 145 pages. It's about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. I'm the artist, the writer, the letterer, the inker, the gray tones, the whole shebang. You can also pick up Morning Star, which is Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a Western, an 8-issue series. This book contains issues 1 through 4, full of big old monsters, gunfighting angels, fighting hordes of demons and monsters. There's also a nice section in the back of the book where I've got work in progress sketches, thumbnails, early character designs, all of that, and more. And you can get this both in print and digital. Volume 2 is just digital right now until I finalize the the margin printing errors, the formatting errors that I've got going on there. And at my main website, jeremy.net. That's also where you guys can email me to contact me. But my final issue, Morningstar issue 8, I've still got single issues in print. You can pick up those there, along with art prints, posters, t-shirts, and more. And that is it. Again, everybody, thanks so much for hanging out. See, Byron says pixel density. The smaller the screen, the crisper the image to a point. Thank you, Amar, for all the great comments. Thank you, Byron. Yadi, be well. Peter, thank you for the great suggestion and for chiming in. Jesse, if you're still listening, again, thank you. Like I said, midweek on Wednesday, I haven't scheduled it yet because I need to confirm, but we'll have a bonus live stream in midweek. Oscar, thanks for showing up. I'm not sure if this is the first time I've had you on, like, join in on a live stream, but thank you for joining. Everybody who was here, Amaris, all you guys. It's good time. Cassiel, keep studying that philosophy and that artwork. You guys, you make it worth it. It's super fun hanging out, talking with you guys, getting into all this. I'm gonna wrap it up. That's it for now. Go be creative.